Welcome to Date Night with the Dialogue Wheel, starring Chachi Bobinks, Tyler, and Evan. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, and welcome to Date Night with the Dialogue Wheel. Tonight we have a very special episode. We are re-recording our interview with Cypher of Tyr and Red Conversation, David, from Fresh Out of Tokens podcast, due to a technical error that I still hit my head on the desk over repeatedly. So let's everybody say hello and see if we can't get it right this time.
There's no chance. There's no way. It's okay. We'll be fine. And hey, this is Chachi Bobinks, just hiding out in the corner.
And special guests, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm
Go ahead,
Tanya. Okay.
I love the lag. I love the lag. It's my favorite.
This is Tanya, aka Cypher of Tyr from Fresh Out of Tokens podcast. Hi.
Hello. David?
Hi, this is, my name is David O. Reeves. I'm Red Conversation on Twitter, and I'm from the Fresh Out of Tokens podcast.
Excellent.
It's wonderful to be here.
Again.
We like each other, it's okay.
Me too. I'm telling you, Tanya, you were so close to getting that knife set that we keep bragging about. Talk to us so often. I'm telling you, like 2 more stamps and you'll get it, I think.
Yeah. And I no longer qualify because they made me staff.
But we do, so.
Don't worry, I'm sure we can squeeze in 2 more appearances to make that knife set a holiday bonus.
Oh man.
You hear that, Patreons? We need your help.
That's right. Please donate, because now we've got to start providing all these things we've been promising for absolutely no reason. All right, well, tonight the focus is on you two, not us, because that's more fun. We like talking about you, Tanya, and David. Let's talk about the Fresh Out of Tokens podcast. What is y'all's focus?
So our focus is to have conversations about gaming and diversity and intersectionality, and not the usual conversations you may hear on gaming podcasts about, like, oh, this game is good, the design is good, it's 10 out of 10, everyone run out and buy it. We want to have those deeper conversations, and at least for me, I was really motivated and inspired by our friends over at Spawn on Me and Justice Points, the Dialogue Wheel, and Unconsolable, and other places that are having those conversations that are going beneath the surface, because not everyone is having those conversations, or they're having them, but not from the same perspective that David and I would bring to it. Would you agree to that, David?
Oh, absolutely. I think that I have very odd feelings about video games. I do think that we can all be smarter, and I feel like lack of representation is often caused by just not thinking through the story or writing.
That's very fair. And then outside of that, once you got this story out there into the world, you were talking about like the game reviews and what have you, that just kind of scrape the surface and talk about everything else. The majority of those voices nowadays are white dude bros, who are talking about combat and things like that. So definitely, we need you guys or people like you guys really jumping in there and digging down deep. Keeps people accountable in ways that they haven't had to be accountable before.
Yeah, because when you look at most video game reviews, it covers how pretty it is, and how the control schemes work, and how playable it is. Like, is it easy, is it hard, and rates it on that scale. It never really goes much deeper than that, except for maybe the odd time where they review some of the story, but it never goes into anything like inclusivity or exclusivity if people are held back from it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Additionally, I do think most of those things in common reviews are meaningless. They could say the game is too hard, but maybe that's just what makes sense for that game. It's supposed to be a hard game.
Right, like, what was it, Is it Dark Souls that everybody...
I see stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, is it Dark Souls is the one that everybody's like, oh, it's so hard, it's so punishing. Well, you know what? Sometimes you need to have a punishing game. I mean, Mario is a punishing game for me. I still have never finished the original Super Mario Brothers because I just suck at platformers.
Yeah, Contra. Man.
Or better yet, remember when Dragon Age Inquisition came out and there were something like 82 reviews that all addressed that the game was pretty much nothing but fetch quest, because not one single one of them realized that you could leave the hinterlands?
Well, you are stuck in the hinterlands for a while.
only about 6 hours?
Only about 6 hours of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think, people got to a certain point and it wasn't what they expected because, especially speaking about Dragon Age, you expect, okay, I've played for a couple hours, I should be on to the next plot point. Wait, I'm still picking elf fruit in the hinterlands. What's going on here?
You can never have enough elf fruit.
I know. Because everyone needs potions.
Except apparently in the new DLC Descent, where there is no elf fruit at all.
What?
Really?
Yeah. No elf fruit.
Wow. And there's not much of anything to harvest except deep mushrooms. Yeah. I don't think I'll need another mushroom in my Inquisitor's life at this rate.
Well, gotta put something on the Inquisitor's pizza. I'm horrible. I am just the worst.
You are not.
So what made you guys want to start the podcast?
David, do you want to tell the origin story, or shall I?
I think we tell it in different ways, because I sort of just got swept up by Tanya. And somewhere in the course of a single conversation, we went from, podcasts are cool to we're recording a podcast right now. We've got 20 minutes to set this up. That's
accurate. The slightly longer addendum to that. I've been talking about it for a long time. It's like, I should do a podcast. Because I'd been on a lot of podcasts. And then I just kind of got scared about it. And we were going to talk to Chris Algu, and I was going to interview him for I Need Diverse Games. And I guess he came into it thoughting it was thoughting. That's not a word. Thinking it was a podcast setup anyway. And I was like, all right, why not? Let's do it. And was chatting with David and Kiva, and I was like, does anyone know about audio editing? And David was like, I do. I'm like, perfect. You're doing the podcast with me. I will send you links and show notes. And we actually got it together in a couple hours. And that first interview... Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It has been a learning experience, because when I don't remember saying I know how to edit a podcast. I remember being like, I have some ideas. I mean, I've worked with a sound engineer before, and that turned just into I'm going to do this, and it's easy. It's easy enough to learn.
Which I'm glad for, because if we waited on me to learn sound engineering, the show would never come out. But yeah, that first time with Chris Algu turned into now a couple months worth of podcasts, and kind of scheduled through almost the end of the year. So it's become a thing, and I do believe that Chachi is going to join us in the future.
Sure am. Can't wait.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I know, right?
All right, well, since I don't know about this, Chachi, you're going to have to put it on the schedule, because I can't do things when I'm out of the loop.
Hey, Andrew, guess
what? We...
By the way, Andrew...
Excellent. No, that's good stuff.
We've seen Andrew put things on a calendar.
Yeah, that was...
You scared me. I was like, we doing this?
No, we're not. I totally screwed that up. That was... Yeah.
It was more like, I have a lot of booze and a lot of food. I don't know what kind of quality you'll get out of me if we are recording this tonight.
No, and then the funny thing is when I looked at the calendar, it wasn't scheduled for Thursday, it was scheduled for Friday, so I had the double screw up, so, yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the calendar is good, though.
I'm docking your pay, Andrew. You now get approximately one less happy smile per week.
Oh.
It's okay, Andrew. I've never touched the Google Calendar except to click yes. I've been part of like the discussion about the time in email chains, but that's all Tanya.
Yeah.
Falling into stereotypes.
Yeah.
Well, you're the producer, so I leave all the audio goodness in your hands.
There you go. There you go.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, when you podcast late at night, this is what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, working all day long, and you're like, wait, my brain's not working.
I got a little sun fried today because I forgot to wear my hat.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So, dear listener, for all a little loopy, this would be why.
This is why.
Yes.
Getting us at our best. Been a day. Alright, so, let's talk for a moment. You were talking about scheduling and having extremely talented guests on your show. Who are some of the, or you've recently had some excellent academic and industry guests on the podcast talking about being a person of color and the perils of criticizing games. So, how did all of that come together? Because you've got some, like, clout flying around on your podcast right now.
So, like, most of the guests we've gotten, I literally was on Twitter like, hey, I'd love it if we could do this episode. And then everyone said yes. And I was like, oh shit, that means we have to schedule it.
I say that Tanya is a booking wizard. She just magics booking guests. I don't know how she does it.
Is it blood magic, Tanya?
No.
Well, I called her a wizard and not a mage. So.
All right.
I think wizards are more respectable.
No, I'm not a Maleficar. No.
Excellent. You just drink a lot of lyrium.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Pay no attention to the bottle in the lower left corner. But I actually know Catherine Cross. She comes to WizCon every year. And I was listening to Tariq on Spawn on Me, and I was like, this would be so awesome if we could do an episode with Tariq, Catherine, and Austin Walker about games criticism as people of color. And I tweeted it, and they were all like, okay. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we have to schedule this and really do it. And it worked out, and it was amazing. You know, Tariq is hilarious and funny and witty.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Catherine's just, like, I just wanted to listen to her and Austin Walker teach a class. Mm-hmm. Because the conversation they were having, I was sitting there like, I don't want to interrupt them. This is going to be a 5-hour show because this conversation is amazing.
Yeah, it really was. I actually listened to it again today while I was working, and it was just great.
This is something I've been thinking about, and I haven't mentioned this to you yet, Tanya. So this is going to be interesting.
Exclusive.
Since I have a better handle on what I'm doing, editing, I've been thinking about just going back over the audio for that one and seeing if we could get a better reconstruction.
Sure, won't hurt. Wouldn't hurt. Because we had some epic tech fail because Austin's mic literally died in the middle of the episode.
Yikes. That's painful. Well, best of luck on that one.
With the abilities I had, I couldn't... Am I stuck? Am I
You're back.
A little bit. Yeah, you're back now.
Oh, okay. What'd you miss?
Everything.
You came back with the abilities.
With the abilities of something.
Well, you see, I just discovered I'm an X-Man now.
So I'm a mage. He's part of X Factor or the X-Men. That explains everything.
No, I was saying, since I have a better handle on the editing, I've been thinking about going back over it, because there's at least like 20 minutes of talking that didn't make it with my skill set at the time. So I think that's something people might like.
Oh, definitely.
If you're into it. And if we have the time.
Well, the editing time is your time, so if you want to do it, I will happily take back those 20 minutes of lost audio.
Yeah, and then you've got something, up your sleeve if you ever have a week where you take off for, me time.
A convention, even.
Or conventions and such. You kind of have something in the pipeline ready to go.
Yeah. Although we are still kind of ahead of ourselves. I think by the end of September, we'll finally be caught up to pre-recorded episodes.
Wow.
We could actually miss like 3 weeks without too much of an issue, as long as the editing still gets done.
That's true. Maybe we'll take Thanksgiving and Christmas off.
There you go.
Well, yeah, everybody needs their holidays. So as the podcast has started to grow and evolve, and your skills are getting better, what are some of the things that you would like to improve about it?
Well,
it doesn't have to just be technical things.
Do you have anything, Tanya?
Oh no, I was gonna say you go first. That's all I was gonna say.
Oh, we do this constantly. We're
Yes.
both like way too polite, apparently.
So we have to be rude to each other, apparently.
I think when it comes to the technical aspects, and I really do think when it comes to the content, I think if we just keep going in the direction we are, we'll be fine, and it'll get better over time, and maybe... Well, actually, we've already done important stuff, if you think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think mainly is kind of figuring out each other's kind of way of speaking so we can segue better into questions. And really, I mean, for me, that's it. Because sometimes having the script is hard because I'm really a visual person. So while I'm looking at the show notes, it's all text. So for me, just better segueing, really, and not kind of sounding like I'm just suddenly coming back to the conversation on occasion.
You know what? We've been doing
I
this
do
for a
that
year
too.
now. I still can't segue worth anything.
Yeah, and having just done, I guess this is technically the 4th interview, even though it's still the 3rd interview. Question segues can be some of the most difficult thing of all. We got really lucky with when we had Ken Gagney on. He made segues very easy for us, which was good.
Awesome.
One thing we keep running into is people will answer questions before we ask them, just as part of the previous question.
Yeah,
It's happened at least 3 times.
Yeah. You start to read it and you're like, oh, wait, hold on. You've already done that. I do know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at least twice I have audio of me being like, no, I think they covered that.
Yeah, that happened a lot with Steve Lubitz.
Yeah, he was on the ball.
Well, I mean, he podcasts every week, so...
Uh-huh.
But it's just like, okay, well, you answered that question, so let's see what else we can talk about right now. But Steve's an awesome guest, but I think a part of it is when you have people on who have podcasted before, or they've been doing it a while, they're more accustomed to that natural rhythm of conversation behind the mic versus we're still learning our way around, because I think we just wrapped our 12th episode this week.
Excellent.
Ooh.
You say natural rhythm, but I'm not sure. I think it's something you have to develop. I think it's more like artificial. It's trying to sound natural.
Okay.
It's like, what is it?
It's an acquired skill to make a conversation flow naturally in a way that questions and topics flow together.
Yeah.
It's almost like a partially designed or like a manufactured authenticity that you're going for.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
That's fair.
There's a bit of thinking ahead that you have to employ, and that's the hard part, is being a step ahead of whatever they're saying. And then they throw you a curveball, and you're like, oh, wait, I didn't see us going in that direction. What's going on here? Yeah, it can be tricky. I always remind myself, because, we're all amateurs here. None of us are, professional. People who are journalists, people who are on TV, your mass communications people, your media broadcasters, stuff like that. they have to take actual classes on learning how to interview people. Like, it's an entire 3-semester-hour course. And we're just swinging in here trying to do it without that much, in-depth study into it, probably. So anytime we can pull it off, we should just be like, yes, slow fist pump.
Yes.
Exactly. You get one in the whole entire conversation. You're good. You got this.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Woohoo.
Andrew, this would be a great time for you to have a really natural segue into the next question, FYI.
Well, you just ruined any possible natural segue by saying that. So, that's all right. It's good. But one of the things that we are all keenly aware of, because we primarily exist on the internet, is that this last year, the hostility towards people of color and women on the internet have become national and international news stories. Did these events influence your decision to create the Fresh Out of Tokens podcast in any way?
A little bit, because you see so many people being harassed for just having an opinion or wanting to have important discourse online about these topics. And it's ridiculous. We should be able to have conversations without, fear of, I'm going to get doxxed. Someone's going to harass me. They're going to call my job. And it's like, we're talking about, this. I don't want to minimize what it is we're doing and the impact we're trying to have. But at the end of the day, we're still talking about video games. They're important to us, and at least I consider it an art form. But wanting to have these conversations and have a safe space was really important, and I kind of flippantly named the show Fresh Out of Tokens, but, there's a bit of salty truth to that because we're tokenized so often. Like I was really glad when Gita Jackson was on the show, she was talking about how she felt that she did have a safe space to talk about some issues, because she brought up the fact that so many people reduce what she or who she is to the harassment she suffered versus the work that she's done. I mean, she's got a weekly column in Pace. She's written some very amazing articles. She's on a weekly podcast with Patrick Klepek and Sam, I almost want to say Wilson, but that is a Marvel character. That is not Sam's last name from the Match 3 podcast.
That's Captain America.
Close enough.
I know. Sam, I promoted you to Captain America if you ever hear this show. But, I appreciate that she felt safe to have that discussion and go, I'm tired of people defining me and wanting to talk to me about the harassment I've suffered versus the work that I've done. Because there's so much more to everyone that has been a part of this and been targeted. We're not victims. And, I'm a very small fish in that because, yes, I've been harassed a little bit, but not on the scale of people who've had to leave their homes, been doxxed, been physically threatened, get all kind of rape and death threats in their inbox on a daily basis. But if we can create that safe space and make people feel welcome, that's a big part of what I want to accomplish. And, that's what we're here for, because we also bring very different perspectives. I'm a black bisexual woman who's grown up in Chicago my whole life, and David is younger and has been in the military and has lived all over, and we both have very different viewpoints to bring to things, and I think that's what helps shape the conversations. And so, that's where I'm coming from. I don't know what else, David, you would have to add to that or contradict me if I've spoken out of turn for you.
I don't think I'd want to contradict you. I think your points are very good. I honestly, this is going to sound so awful and privileged, but since the way that people were treated online predates me making a somewhat split-second decision about a podcast, I cannot tell you if I would have done it the same if that hadn't happened.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And honest.
Maybe. I do think these are conversations I enjoy having and I think are important. So, in some degree, I would still be doing this, even if we didn't have to go out of our way to create safe spaces.
Well, that actually segues perfectly into the next question, which is,
Good
with
job.
with so few safe spaces online, what can people do to help create them or maintain the ones that still exist?
This is a really hard question. I don't know if we had a good answer last time either. Tanya?
I sort of remember what I said. In terms of making safe spaces, I think it's, being welcoming and inclusive and not saying one thing but behaving in a different way. That's why I'm really like kind of a cheerleader for AlterConf, because they are very much about an inclusive and safe space for marginalized people in technology and gaming. And a place where you can gather quietly and have these conversations, because I've got kind of a separate closed G-Check group for people of color in gaming. And, there are days when we just need to go and vent and go, I can't believe the bullshit I've seen on Twitter, or someone said this to me on Facebook. And I think it's very important to have those spaces outside of the predominantly white gaze that all of us have to get up and work with and live with. And regardless of who you're partnered with or, what your situation is, there's some days when it just gets to be too much. And like with Gamer X, they've actually got asexual safe space. And I've never seen that at a convention. And I think, especially when you talk about conventions and gathering in geek spaces, because there's a fallacy that, we're all geeks together, everyone's one big happy family. But unlike happy families, a lot of us fight and argue, and we don't know how to act, and we don't know boundaries. So I think it's establishing boundaries and going, okay, I need to have this 5, 10, 15 minutes a day by myself. And then maintaining those spaces is understanding they're necessary for people's well-being and health, like a quiet space at a con. And I know I keep going back to convention spaces, but that's where I think a lot of us congregate, because anyone can listen to a podcast, and if it gets to be too much, if it's too sensitive, you can always turn it off and come back to it later, versus interacting in real life, or when you're playing a game online. I think there just needs to be an alcove where you can go, shut the door, and it just not really interact unless you choose to do so.
Yeah. I remember when we talked to Austin Walker, he talked about how the moderators on the forums where he works were very diligent. And I think he may have a point that it may be analogous to the less stable in real life, like, what is it? The initiative in some cities where they just make sure there aren't any broken windows, because then it looks like a place where you don't break windows anymore, and therefore you stop doing other things. I do think that works when it comes to building like a space or a community, judging by how Giant Bomb's doing.
Yeah, and I think it was Scientific American that just turned off comment sections.
Yeah. I also think that it's part of it's mental, and just reminding people that, like, okay, I'm gonna talk to privileged people. Everyone runs away from everything sometimes. Sometimes you don't want to deal with whatever. So it's not that weird that people don't want to have to deal with these things in certain places.
Yeah, because, I would really like to go on Twitter one day and not have to block over, 80,000 people just to use Twitter.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
How long is that block list of yours now?
Let's see. If I can quietly type, I will try to see, because I think it's probably getting close to 100,000.
Holy shit.
Jesus.
There was someone, and I don't know if you talked to her, but I think there's someone who the other day they were talking about block list and everything, and they were like Monday or so, but they were like, oh yeah, I've been getting harassed all day long, and so I like to look when people are talking about getting harassed. I tend to go flip over and look at their mentions and see who it is, and if it's anyone I needed to block or anything like that, and I couldn't see anything. And at first I'm like, well, that's kind of weird that I can't see a single person bothering them. And then I realized it's because I'm on like the most awesome block list ever, because every single one of those people were blocked.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do a little quick math. So there's 500 people per page that show up and block together, and I have 179 pages of blocks.
100 people per page and 179 pages?
No,
deity of your choice.
500 people per page and 179 pages.
89,500 people.
Yep, that's where I'm at right now.
And my block,
that is wow.
And my block list doesn't even require much extra scrolling on Twitter.
Yes, I mean it makes you think about privilege because I'm not using a block list. I probably will be shortly after people hear me say that. But
oh god, yeah, that's how it goes. That's exactly how that goes. I had to put one in after the last podcast that we had where I was like, I don't use a block list because blah, blah, blah. And then it's like they figured it out. They're like, oh, wait, hold on. She can still see this shit that we're saying. And then the very next day, I got the shit trolled out of me.
Yeah.
I have heard people...
Oh, no, I was just going to say because I think the people I wind up having to put on a block list are the ones that go out of their way to harass people and troll people. Because on the 1-year anniversary of Ferguson, I had a few tweets. I had feelings.
Yeah, of course.
And people felt the need to come in my mentions and tell me that I should leave America. And, the whole usual all lives matter, blue lives matter, it's black people's fault because black on black crime. I hit every bingo square before 10 a.m. that day. Oh, yeah, because I wanted to have some fun with the person who told me to leave America I speak 3 languages, and I'm on my second passport. I know how easy it is to leave. Why don't you go first? So.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, people who seem really surprised, because on occasion I've blocked an error or the auto blocker. Like, I was blocking Bill Nye. Who would block Bill Nye? He's
nobody.
Yeah. So on occasion there are false positives, but I couldn't be on Twitter without it, and that is a sad fact, and that's why that safe space is needed.
Exactly. I agree. Until we come up with some sort of solution, or Twitter does, one of the two. Unfortunately, that's the best solution. So, because everyone has a right to be comfortable somewhere, and that's what sucks. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, now that we've
got where we were.
Now that we killed the mood entirely.
God, right?
Yeah. You know what? This would have been I've got something else for the end because we're blowing through this pretty quick. So let's move on to we often hear about how diversity and representation is so important in gaming. And specifically, and media consumption in general. Why is it so important that we see, black protagonists, gay protagonists, bisexual protagonists, people that have been underrepresented historically in games? Why is it important that we see them more?
David, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Well... this is going to sound ridiculous, and somebody is going to cut the first half of the sentence out for evil. I'm not sure that maybe it isn't that diversity is important so much as the lack of diversity is important.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Well, I think the goal is for it to be something we don't have to think about, right?
Right.
So I do think if you're creating things or writing things that you have to think about it because you didn't grow up on things that thought about it for you. So you're used to these templates for stories and characters, and you end up defaulting to them. And it just reinforces the worst parts of our society.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think I explained that. I'm just saying that. Oh, God, it is so hard to explain these things sometimes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Words are hard.
Maybe I can help, because I think I see where you're going with this. It's getting.
Of course, you do, other white guy.
Of course, right? Because we have like this because we're white males. We have this. We have this mental link together. But I think where you're leading with this is, it's important that we get to the point where we don't have to think about it anymore. Where writing in people of color isn't writing in people of color. People of color are there because, oh my God, people of color are there. Gay, trans, everyone else is included because they're there. So the old adage is always write what you know. And I'll be honest, up until maybe a year ago, I think is when all this nasty bullshit started on Twitter, or a little more than that now. Writing what I know would have been entirely white cis het. And now, even though I don't necessarily have the perspective of a trans man or a trans woman or a person of color, I've seen some of their experiences, and it's getting easier to, if not relate, at least empathize and understand the perspective, so that I can help in some way if I ever pick up a pen and start writing something that might be important one day.
Yeah. Well, I have to talk to a lot of white cis men, or I've had to, doing, editorial work. I will edit your short stories, by the way, people. We'll talk more about that later. And I've always been of the camp that write what you know only gets you so far. You have to do research. You have to create character. Don't make another white guy. That's a little boring. You need diversity because it's more interesting, at least. And I think that at the core, people are mostly the same. I don't understand Tanya's experiences, but I can get a big idea. Think, Tanya?
Yeah, because for me, it's just, well, it's two things. It's one, clearly we exist. And the idea that people want to hold on to the old school idea of, black people don't game, or women don't game, or we're not real gamers, or we just don't care that much, it's really a bad fiscal decision. Because I can tell you right now that after seeing the Mafia 3 trailer, I'm going to buy that game. That's $70 2K would have normally got out of me. And the idea that, the way it's always been done is the way it should always go forth is really stupid. Because we live in a multicultural world, we live in a diverse world, and it's literally opening your eyes and seeing how the world is out there. And to not include that, to me, it's just lazy storytelling and bad storytelling, and a refusal to step outside your comfort zone. I mean, there's so many sources on Writing the Other that Nisi Shaw and Octavia Butler have written, and I could be getting it wrong. I know Nisi Shaw co-wrote a book on Writing the Other, and while it's meant for more science fiction and fantasy writers, it's something that anyone writing a character could use. And diversity is more than just a buzzword. It's more than an agenda. It's how the world is. And I think leaving your cast of characters to the same scruffy, 30-looking white dude with tragic backstory and fridging his girlfriend or whoever for his man pain motivation is getting really, really fucking boring. So we need new stories. New stories are out there. Just we have to open up the doors and get people in to write them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just recently saw.
Can I?
Oh yeah, no, please jump right in.
Oh, I was just thinking. So I hate to talk in the context of like Gamergate and so on, but society exists. So basically, I do think there are basically two things that could happen, and because let me think. You can write what you know, which means we should just hire more women of color and more trans people. That's one way to accomplish this goal. I do think for some degree, because there's a lot of people there who want to protect their own jobs, because it's hard to negotiate with people when you're talking about their job or something, then I think we should advocate people do research and at least try. Well, if for nothing else, because then it's a more interesting story.
Absolutely, because if you don't make the effort when there's plenty of people out there that are more than willing to share their stories, you're just being lazy.
Yeah, I mean, narrative is important. I mean, none of us have fought a dragon, I don't think. Yet, they persist in fantasy stories. And well, if we're going to write what we know, then no one should write anything with modern day, we're stuck in cubicles and life sucks kind of games. There should be more Stanley Parables then, if that's the case. Yeah, I watched someone stream that last night. I watched Mike Laidlaw stream it last night. It was very interesting. And I lost the thought I was going to make because it was related to talking about AlterConf and my talk, but never mind. I will try to wrangle that thought back later if it becomes relevant. Oh, no. It's totally fine. Like, I kind of mentally wandered away from where I was going, and it happens on occasion, because it's what I do.
I hate doing this. It's just I explain this stuff all the time, so I think I know what to say. Like, talking to like a writer, when you're writing a character and they have an evolution, you are imagining emotional responses to stimuli that are often they're not yours. They're also imaginary. I don't see why we can't use those tools to just listen to trans people or people of color and be like, okay, this is how this is what they say it's like. I don't see why they'd lie about it.
Well, that is something a lot of people are lacking, because that requires empathy and an ability to place yourself in someone else's experience, because more often than not, and we've all seen this online, especially today with that lovely article about, oh my God, sexism never happened to me, therefore it's not real. There's a lot of, well, I never personally have experienced prejudice. I've never personally, been harassed online. So therefore it doesn't actually happen, does it? And I think that's where a lot of people fall down in terms of writing, because it has not happened to them. They literally cannot imagine trying to write it, or they just won't try it because they just get stuck and can't imagine that things are really that way.
I've heard privilege explained as the absence of something. That's why it's so hard to perceive privilege, according to I don't remember who said this. It may have been like Cracked. Privilege is, it's something that doesn't happen to you. Does that make sense?
I think I get
privilege
you,
is not being stopped by the cops.
Yeah, that's what privilege is born from, is the lack of that experience. I have white
so it's
person
hard
privilege because I have no clue what it's like to live as a person of color, right?
Yeah, I have no idea what it's like to live in fear of my life when I'm driving my car down the street and then the sirens go on behind me because I've been going 10 over the limit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even with the statistics the way they are, they're awful. If I get pulled over, I'm pretty confident I can talk my way out of it. And that's clearly, caused by superficial reasons.
Or at the very least end up with a ticket and not tased or shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's right. That sounds right. And you know what? Anytime that somebody tries to talk to me about something that's privileged, that's the first thing I try to bring up to them is, okay, tell me when you were in the situation that's similar to what we're discussing. Tell me about when you were walking down the street and a cop pulled a gun on you. Tell me when you were walking down the street and people started yelling that they were going to fuck you. tell me when you're in that situation and how it felt, and oh, wait, you don't know. That's something that we have to point out. And people who have privilege are so privileged that they don't understand that that's how privilege works. It's a big roundabout poop pile, for lack of better words.
And if they lack empathy, they'll never, ever see that it is privilege in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it is so hard to win people over, white people, because privilege is, I think it hides from people who have it. You have to look for it, and it's hard to explain that to people, and it's all in abstract too, which is why I think that we can at least save writers. They work in the abstract. Mm-hmm. If you're privileged, trying to understand someone who isn't, their experiences it's abstract to you, and you just have to accept their experiences as valid.
Yeah, I actually, and if this is irrelevant, you can cut it later, but I actually had this experience with someone that I went to college with who, one, just couldn't literally understand how he was still privileged, even though he's a dude and he's white and he's gay, and so he wanted to play Oppression Olympics with me about, well, I'm gay, therefore I'm so oppressed. And I'm just like, dude, you don't get it. And I can't teach you something you don't want to learn. I was trying to explain the privilege of, you don't have to worry about, if you're out in Boys Town at night, no cops are going to follow you back to your car or wonder what you're doing in that neighborhood. I used to live in Lakeview, Chicago, which is, it's a nicer neighborhood. It's near Boys Town, where, there's a lot of partying, there's a lot of drinking, there's not that far from Wrigley Stadium. Yet I've been asked for ID and asked where I was going at 8 o'clock at night when I lived down the street. It's that kind of privilege that he will never understand.
Well, and on top of that, I think a lot of people don't realize that privilege isn't like a check sheet where you're like, oh, look, I'm gay. Check mark. Oh, look, I'm a woman. Check mark. It's the experiences that you as a person have, because privilege does vary person to person. Another white woman who is very similar to me may have more privilege than I do because she's got different scenarios. Maybe she's got more privilege than me because she works in a female-driven environment, and so she doesn't have to worry about the wage issues. Or, it's not black and white, for lack of a better term. It's not, there's
It's not a simple contrast.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not necessarily a binary.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It isn't like you've got accomplishments. Oh, hit achievement. I'm bisexual. It isn't like that. That isn't how privilege works. It is right down to, on a personal level, where you are, where you live, what your history is, where you went to school. You can't sit there and have a pissing contest when it comes to privilege. There's way too many variables. It's, have you been oppressed? Are you part of a class that could be oppressed? Are people like you oppressed? You have to fear those kind of things. And I think a lot of people who have privilege are like, oh, wait, hold on, I have that card. I own the card that says I'm homosexual, or I own the card that says I was raised poor. Now I can say I don't have privilege even though I do. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes totally sense.
Okay, good. Phew.
Talking to... I was just thinking about something. Talking to my white friends, sometimes I like to point out that they're... okay, so white people love to talk about, economic privilege, which I will just accept as one of these axes. Yeah, it sucks to be a poor person. But thinking about it now, during this exact podcast, right now, it's still different because it may be the only axis you can climb as an individual.
Yeah.
Everything else we have to move is like a society.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. I've never thought of it that way.
Me neither before today.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Also, don't feel so bad about the black and white thing. I remember saying coding was black magic to Sharif Jackson. And just being like, witchcraft.
Oh, good job. Good job.
Man almighty. Yeah, that's the thing that happens.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to a conversation we had with another guest that been uploaded yet, where we talk about ableist phrasing and how that's
That is
much a part of our conversation that you don't even notice it when it's happening.
Yep.
Not at all.
I have ended up... Oh, go ahead, Tanya.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I got spanked on Twitter last week for that myself, so believe me, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this is purely from a privileged perspective, as everything else seems to be. But it is so hard to stop ableist language. Like, me and, 3 different friends of mine all call each other out on it constantly because we all still forget. It's weird. I don't know how it got so ingrained in our language.
Yeah.
Because there's no shame attached to it, unlike if you say something racist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we haven't moved to that point in society where people are really embracing the fact that ableistic language is damaging. They're like, oh, but that's just a word. Or, oh, my favorite one, linguistics have changed the definition of that term.
Oh, whatever.
Whatever. It's just an excuse to keep talking. But again, the same thing.
Sure, but we can change it again then.
Right, exactly. We can change it again. There are other words. Unless you are just so downtrodden that you cannot even find thesaurus.com, you have no excuse.
I mean, there are times when I have to seriously think about an alternate way to say something that would otherwise be ableist.
Yeah.
So we don't have, a perfect replacement worked out to tell people to just say this instead yet.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard indeed, yes.
All right. Well, we've been all over our
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
the downside. Well, no, not all over. That it's been a great conversation. It's been a very, very grim conversation. So before we move on to how people can help out and support Fresh Out of Tokens and I Need Diverse, we are going to lighten them. We did this our Alan Schumacher interview, and we did this with less than equal to. So now we are going to do it with you guys, just because we got so. What's the word I'm looking for here? We got
heavy.
we got so heavy. We need to leave the listeners with something a little light and fluffy. If I can
Okay.
pull up
like marshmallows?
Like marshmallows, exactly. Give them a little happy joy s'more at the end of the podcast.
I'm not being the Hershey's in the s'more.
No, you guys. No, it's a book bag. You're right.
I am an editor who tells people how sentences can be perceived. I would just like to illustrate with the previous conversation. Words are dangerous. Hire me.
Oh, God. All right. Oh, this was perfect. I don't even know if I need to keep going.
I know.
Yes, you do.
We do.
We could do this.
All right.
Oh, now because I'm crying. It's good tears, but I'm crying now. This is amazing.
All right. So, since it's been so heavy, we're gonna do a little bit of either or, just for some fun, aloof stuff, right? Just to break the mood. So, Chachi, you start, and then we'll just alternate. You do the odd ones, I'll do the even ones.
Did you paste it on here? Because otherwise
Oh shoot! Yeah, I'm sorry. I will.
Knowing what we're doing is an important step.
Don't look. Don't
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot
All right,
that they're not in notes. All right, they're going to be down at the very bottom of the notes.
Yeah, don't look. Spoilers.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at anything. I'm not touching anything. Except my beer.
Hey,
I will just
Wait, it somehow.
tab back over to this picture of prom Tanya.
I know, right?
Open.
All right, somehow number 1 got added in at number 2.
That's almost perfect.
No, that is nowhere near perfect.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God, this is so great.
There we go. Now it's fixed.
All right.
Oh, this is so broken.
Oh, it's
I wanted to tell you
amazing.
after what the typo was because it was hilarious. Okay.
Boy.
Nug or Mabari?
Mabari. David, do you know what a nug and a Mabari are? David?
Mabari is. I don't know the other.
You know what a
I'm
Mabari is,
confused
but you
with
don't know
Mabari. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
A nug is like a pig.
A bunny pig.
a bunny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I remember now. Okay. I had to go chase them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mabari
It's
for
been a while.
All right. Mako or Hammerhead?
Hammerhead.
No, I think I'll change my answer now that I know what the other one is. Mako.
David
All
David got the correct answer.
Yeah, there's only one right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I
only-
just hate the Mako that much.
Oh my gosh. All right, chicken wings or chicken fries?
Chicken wings. David.
Chicken wings.
Okay, now
You
just so
sound
you
so
know,
sad about
I
it.
know, right? He's like, I don't want to choose. Just so you
I
know,
see.
when he copied and pasted it, the question it said chicken wings or mug or Mabari. And I was like, wow, I thought we were trying to go for light, not.
Yes, let's eat all the cute fuzzy things in Dragon Age.
Well, you did have
Mabari.
Alan Schumacher on.
I know he's changed us forever.
Yeah. So, the Maker, the Cune, or the Old Gods?
The old gods. The Maker has abandoned us.
That was perfect.
I have to say the Cune. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, their society seems very, like, rigid and authoritarian, but at the same time, they seem to have, like, wiggle room. Right? Like, there's that one woman who is a good fighter, so she just uses male pronouns now. That was a thing that happened, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Krem is actually not part of the Cune, though. Krem is of Tevinter and was a Soparati, who is someone who does not have magic, but is still a citizen of Tevinter. Yes, I am that nerd.
I love it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, was it... Okay, I remember watching a video of this. I haven't played Inquisition due to EA. But maybe if you, like, bring, like, a party member who is a member of the Cune, they talk about it. Because they have a term for that in their language, so it's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
So there's clearly some wiggle room, it's just that everyone is taught to find a niche and push towards certain ones.
Yes, because I am... It is when you are talking with the Chargers in the tavern.
Is this a thing that happened, or am I misremembering something?
Yeah.
It is a Cune Atlock. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that is the Kunari word for someone who is, it's looking on the forums is not the best way to define it, but that is how it is considered, is a woman who takes on a male persona and lives as a man, and thus is a warrior. At least that's what I'm finding off the cuff.
So presumably they have the opposite too, because from what I understand, their philosophy, it may seem very rigid and authoritarian, but it's all about just figuring out where people belong in society, right? That's theoretically, that would be the job of their teachers, is to figure out what kids are good at and then push them in that direction. More forcibly than we would, but you know.
Yeah, and then if you reject your role under the Cune, then you become a Talbashoth.
Yeah, but there are so many in Ferelden and the Free Marches. It's clearly not that hard to get away.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, And, if we don't watch it, we will talk about Kunari lore all evening.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no! You're on a podcast hosted by
This
people
is
who
true.
talk about Dragon Age.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Dragon Age too much on this podcast I was introduced to as a Dragon Age podcast.
There is no
that,
such
right?
No such thing.
There is no such thing. So we can go through the rest of the words and then come back to talking about the Kunari.
There you go. All right, so next question. Vampires or werewolves?
Werewolves.
Vampires.
Oh, my.
Interesting.
Right down the middle. A podcast divided.
Coffee or tea?
Ooh. I'm
Can I
gonna
put coffee in tea? Can I just cheat? I don't.
Yeah, you can cheat.
I'm a big fan of both of those things.
Yeah, no, feel free to go off the board with your answer. That's fine.
I'm just still making that face at the coffee in tea.
And the coffee.
I have to say coffee, and then obviously in summer months iced coffee, and other time hot coffee.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Yarny or Woolly Yoshi?
Yarny!
Yarny! Yes.
I'm not informed enough to answer this question.
I'm going to answer Yarny for you, okay?
Yeah.
I will trust your opinion.
Hey.
Hey, I'm the one that lives in Chicago, not you. You can't racketeer the vote.
You need to Google Yarny, David, because it is just the most adorable thing that has ever come into the video game world. And his creator is just
so cute. Oh my gosh.
He's too good. He's too good for the gaming world.
He is too good for this world. Period. He is the cinnamon roll who is too good for this world. Yes.
Okay, how do you spell this?
Yarny.
Yarn
with a Y.
Yarn.
Right.
I like how we all just said Yarny instead of
I just spelled it Yarny. I know, we're so helpful.
Okay, Unravel, right?
Yes, Unravel.
Yes.
All right, I'm sorry. I stopped paying attention to E3 after Fallout. I was there for one reason.
That's okay. So, next big dividing question: Star Wars or Star Trek?
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh man, that is so hard.
I know.
Star Trek, because I grew up with the original.
As an editor, I would have to say Star Wars because it is a perfect illustration of why my profession is important. Because we all see what happens when you let George Lucas do what he wants.
Well then.
But I like Star Trek better in that I have actually stated on Twitter that I promote practices and beliefs that would lead us to a society resembling the United Federation of Planets as depicted in the Next Generation episode, The Neutral Zone. I practice that answer, by the way.
Oh my god.
Because, for one, I think it's funny. And two, it's somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I'm next. Oh, sorry.
You are next, yeah.
Jedi or Sith?
Sith.
Oh.
David.
It's a purely ideological decision. And I think the whole lesson of Star Wars is that either extreme is a bad idea.
Just answer the question.
He did answer the question. That's not
an answer.
That's a neither.
As middle of the road as possible. No. We didn't have Jedi, Sith, or in between.
I really like helping people. Jedi do it all the time. Luke Skywalker.
Right.
I would say a Jedi who can do Sith lightning, then, at least.
Okay.
Mostly good, but, sometimes.
Sometimes,
Jedi
you
is
just
so
gotta...
good he's got the dark side points to spare. The light side point loss to spare.
All right. Final question. Kirk, Picard, Cisco, Janeway, or Archer?
I'm gonna have to go with Picard.
I was actually just asking Tanya if she wanted to, why she would go for Picard.
Oh.
All because I think I'm picking more than her.
Okay. Even though I grew up watching Kirk, and Janeway was the first female captain, I just always have liked Picard and how he deals with things, and how he looks just so fucking done with everyone. And beside Earl Grey hot, that is the quintessential thing for me. And, it's Picard. He's awesome.
It does make me ask serious questions about the settings of replicators.
Yeah.
Apparently the default isn't hot. for some reason. It's a really tricky question. Because, okay, I'm just going to say it's going to be a captain of the Enterprise. I'm sorry, Cisco. You're great, but... And Archer, Picard, and Kirk, I've thought about this way too much, too. They seem to correspond to, the three types of heroes in Fable. In that Picard was, he was very academic. Kirk was a nice guy, but he would punch people. And Archer, every time, I actually watched all of Enterprise, I'm sorry.
That's okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
His plan always seemed to start with just telling people what they wanted to hear. He would lie his way out of conundrums.
Oh my gosh.
So, did I cut out again?
No. Yeah.
We can hear you.
I'm just being too much of a nerd.
I have never watched one single, even partial episode of Star Trek, so I'm like, when we did that question the first time, I looked at it and I thought it was like a mashup of worlds, and I was like, okay, so I know Picard is like a Star Trek thing, and I have no clue what the fuck a Janeway is, but Archer is a dude from the cartoon and Cisco is the thong song guy. Like, that's what I thought. I was like, what a weird combination of people to ask about. I know nothing about Star Trek. So that's what my blank stare is. It's like...
So, I would have to say, honestly, probably Archer. I like the way he does stuff.
All right.
It's just too bad the show he was on was Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, for people who want to help out the Fresh Out of Tokens podcast, how can they go about doing that?
Rate and review us on iTunes and Stitcher. Also, if you have a couple bucks to spare, as little as $1, you can support the I Need Diverse Games Patreon, which in turn pays for Simplecast.fm account and can get us better equipment. Let's see what else. And mostly just, spread word about the podcast and tell people about it. We've got a few episodes under our belt. And, really give us feedback, because that's the only way we can improve. Be it a question about something that was on the show or something you want to see discussed, because we're trying to have those conversations that we're not hearing, because future guests include someone talking about asexuality in games, which I've never actually heard on another show discussed. Jeremy Yoder's going to come over and talk about religion in gaming. Just give us topics. What is it you want to hear? Because we want to give people what they want to listen to, but also give folks who may not think that they really can go on a podcast or think they have nothing to say. We want to dispel that notion, because a lot of people think, oh my God, I'm on a podcast. And it's like, just come and talk to us and we'll record it and it'll be awesome. And get out of the idea that you have to be some kind of big name in gaming or writing or whatever. We're here for everyone to have an audience and have a moment to talk about what they're passionate about.
Okay.
David?
I mostly want to reinforce what she said. To the first point, when it comes to the Patreons, they are patreon.com/IDIV need games. Is that it?
I need DIV GMS.
GMS. There we go.
Yes.
And that, I know, alright, I did the math the other day because I'm that kind of person. And if I were expecting someone to pay me minimum wage in the state of Washington, which I use because it has the highest minimum wage, I'm sorry, I probably donate about $80 in man hours to the show a week. And I'm sure Tanya does comparable work. I'm sure of it. She's a booking wizard. So, additionally, the I Need Diverse Games also supports other things, right?
Yep. Like, for instance, we are going to...
There are the maintenance costs and the time that we spend.
Yeah, because editing is hard work, and David puts a lot of work into it, and, just the prep of the show, as you know, these things don't come out of thin air.
Yeah, no.
And, I have a day job, and David is very busy with other stuff, not just this podcast. So, support you can give I Need Diverse Games or David's personal Patreon because, hey, people would like food and a roof over their head and things like that would be awesome. So, supporting either I Need Diverse Games, which actually is doing fairly well considering it's not that old of a Patreon. Those are the things you can do and really just rate and review and respond because we often tweet about, hey, we're having so-and-so, do you have questions? And I think we may have gotten 2 questions out of all the times that we've at least kind of been very aggressive. Hey, this person's going to be on the show. You have questions. And yet we never get them. So.
Yeah. Definitely. It's the, I say those 2 words a lot.
Yeah, and we will definitely link both the Patreons in the show description, so people can find you. We've got your Twitter here at Cipher of Tier and at Red Conversation to give to people as well. So we will definitely make sure that we help you guys get that word out.
The other thing, though, I did want to say about what Tanya said is she mentioned that you don't need to be anyone important, which is actually really, I want to emphasize that because some of the most interesting people we've talked to were not important. Everyone has very interesting ideas. You don't necessarily have to be an expert to have something that is very good to explore.
You want to lead us out, Chachi?
Yeah. I got this. All right. Well, I think we're going to call that a wrap. We've got a good long show here full of awesomeness. So I thank you guys so much for recording with us again. This time it was recorded in triplicate, so this will definitely be heard by people besides ourselves.
Oh, you are more than welcome. It's always a good time hanging out with you, Chachi.
Thanks. We love having you on.
Yes, and I get to talk to Andrew twice because I think the first couple times I was on the show, you were not part of the actual production, Andrew. So this is awesome that I get a chance to talk with you more.
Yes, yeah. It's always good to be a part of the show. But...
Oh, and by the way, the GIF you made me that says historical accuracy, say it again, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Was a great hit in my AlterConf talk, so thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I had to use that in my talk. It was amazing.
Uh-huh. That is awesome.
You're very welcome. I'm glad it was able to bring everyone so much joy. Making it was so much fun, and then I remade it for some other people that I knew because they kept getting unsolicited dick pics, and so now it's send me another ew. So now I've got that one as well for people.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't think you saw my tweet the other day when I said I wanted one for neurodiverse terms. Say ADHD when you've forgotten something one more time or something like that. We will make him create every version of that possible, but the one he did for you will always reign supreme, so.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I must have missed that one, otherwise I would have had it up already.
Yeah, way to fail, slacking. Alrighty, well, thank you again so much. It was a pleasure talking to you both. And, everyone, please, if you've never listened to this... Oh,
wonderful. Well, I hope I didn't, talk too much.
Oh, you totally did. Oh my god, Whiteman.
There's like lag now.
Yeah, you're lagging out.
I figured.
It's alright, it's fun. But if you've never listened to the Fresh Out of Tokens podcast, right now is a great time to do it. As far as I know, their podcasts are available 24 hours a day at the link in the description. So you can just listen to it in the car, in the shower, whatevs. Alright, well thank you guys again so much, and we will call it a wrap. Everyone say good night.
Good night.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast was brought to you by thedialoguewheel.com and Patreons like you. Follow us on Twitter at DialogueWheel, on the web at thedialoguewheel.com, or in traffic if you're creepy like that. Thanks for joining.